Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 663. 663. Today is Tuesday. Tuesday, day 663. Yeah, a little bit rattled today. Had kind of a strange day, actually two strange days. So Sunday, rather Saturday night and all day Sunday, we get this major snowstorm. We get about 8 to 10 inches of snow. Temperature drops, it gets real cold, freezes over, it's all nasty. I'm coming back from somewhere on Sunday afternoon, and my muffler falls off, and so my car's like really, really loud. So I'm thinking, okay, tomorrow I'll have to make an appointment when I get to work. I'll have to call, make an appointment to get my muffler fixed. And but anyway, it was kind of dragging the ground, so I got home. I had to get down on the ground and take a coat hanger and wire it up for a couple days till I could get it fixed. That's what I was thinking. And then so then Monday morning, I go out. It's freezing cold. Early in the morning, I go out to my car to start my car, warm it up, and I got my left front tire is flatter than a pancake. So needless to say, I had a pretty interesting Monday. I ended up having to go get my tire replaced, and I said, since you're doing that, you might as well fix the muffler, and since I'm about due for an oil change, go ahead and do that too. So I didn't actually show up at work until like 3 in the afternoon, 3:30, by which point most other people were leaving, and I still had everything to do that I have to do. So pretty long night, pretty long day and night for me on Monday. But that's how it goes, right? So anyway, it'll be fine. So I wanted to just mention one more thing before I move off this topic of this interview that Trump did with Jeanine Pirro before I get to the today's news. So something else dawned on me the other day after I had done the video about this deal where Trump called in and talked to Judge Jeanine Pirro on her show Saturday night, and he of course made all these very matter-of-fact statements about, hey, you just wait and see these individuals. He named Page and Strzok and McCabe and Comey. These individuals, you just wait and see what happens. This is all going to come out. These people, in fact, a lot of people I can't even say. And so I just got to thinking, how would it feel if you were one of those people? Can you imagine hearing the President of the United States drop your name in reference to a situation where he says, all these people are going to be, brought to justice, or all these people are going to be exposed, or we're going to get the truth. Wait do you see where everything ends up? If you're one of these people, how would you like to be someone and have the President of the United States dropping your name, suggesting that you're probably going to be in some trouble at some point, or you're going to be held accountable for something that you've done? Now, I got to think that would be pretty nerve-wracking and unnerving to me. I mean, if I heard the President of the United States drop my name and say, yeah, that dude there, you just wait and see. When we get to the end of this, you're going to find out, what's going to happen with this guy, I mean, I would think that would make me very nervous, because if the President's kind of got it in for you, that's a problem. That's a big problem. And I would be very, very nervous if, in fact, the President was dropping my name, suggesting that, people are going to find out when we get to the end of this thing, and all these things are going to happen. So I just wonder how Strzok and Page and Comey and all those people feel, knowing good and well you got the President of the United States suggesting, hey, we're going to get to the bottom of this, and when we do, all these people, are going to be in trouble. But he also mentioned other people that he said, I can't name the names of these people, but we're all going to learn who these people are and what they were involved in. So, if you're one of those people, you're probably even more nervous, because even though he didn't mention your name, he mentioned all those people that were involved in this. So if you're one of those people that were involved in some of that stuff, like Theresa May or Boris Johnson, or maybe some of these other people, if you are one of those people whose name maybe hasn't been mentioned by the President, or isn't popularly known or associated with Spygate, you also have to be pretty nervous. Just the very fact that you've got the President of the United States saying, hey, we're going to get to the bottom of this when this all comes out, and it's going to come out, and you're going to find out about this and this and this. And I got to think that would make you pretty nervous. And so based on that, I'm thinking, why would Trump, if these investigations are going on, or if he's got some plan for how he's going to expose these people and expose the crimes that they participated in, why would he be publicly saying these things? I mean, you generally don't talk about it when you are investigating somebody, because you don't want to make them change whatever they're doing. You might be surveilling them or whatever. You don't want them to go change their cell phones and their phone numbers and and change their habits and stop talking to people they would normally be talking to. I mean, you don't want people to change their pattern of behavior. If you're investigating them, you want to kind of capture them as they are. And you certainly don't want to tip them off. You don't want to give them some situation where they might already start building an alibi. They might start communicating with other people who are part of the plot so they can get their story together. So, why would Trump be out there giving essentially a heads up, giving them a heads up saying, hey, we're going to get to the bottom of this, and when we do, all you people are going to be in some trouble, and even some people I haven't mentioned, because wait do you see how all this ends up? Why would he be tipping these people off or whatever? Now, it could be it's just Trump, and he just doesn't care, maybe he doesn't think it matters or whatever. But it could also be that Trump is kind of tweaking them a bit. He wants them nervous. He wants them freaking out. He wants them paranoid and wondering about what's going to happen and what Trump's going to do, or what Barr may do, or what some journalist, some leaks may come to some journalist who may expose some things or whatever. So, Trump may be doing this on purpose because he wants these people to know that he is going to sort this thing out. And when he does, they're all going to be compromised and probably held in some sort of legal jeopardy. So that's one reason. He may just want to tweak these people. That may be the only reason he's dropping their names and making these types of statements. It's, because obviously he's tipping them off and saying, hey, I'm going to get to the bottom of this or whatever. So, I just thought it was interesting, when I was thinking about it, as to why Trump would be doing this. Because typically, you don't talk about investigations, or anything like that. You don't tip people off that they're being investigated. So you kind of wonder why Trump would say those things, and I can think that it's one of two things, or both. He is purposely trying to rattle them, to make them nervous, to make them paranoid, to make their lives kind of miserable. Because let's face it, if you knew every day when you got up that the President of the United States has somehow got some sort of a plan, or believes he's got a plan, or believes that he's going to expose some great crime that you participated in, it'd probably make you nervous every day. You'd be thinking about it all day, going, oh man, I wonder what's going on. And, it'd be like torture in a way, because you don't know what's going on. You just know the president's telling some major media figure on the national airwaves that this whole situation is going to be aired out, and that the perps are going to be held accountable or what have you. So it could be just that he wants to make these people, twist in their seat a little bit, and I'm sure he's probably having that effect on many of them, because they may have thought that they were out of the woods, but once Trump said that to Judge Jeanine, he's made it perfectly clear that this is not over by any stretch of the imagination, and he has every intention of making sure that all this is going to come out. So it could be that he just wants to tweak these people and make them paranoid and nervous or whatever. But it could also be that he wants to not just make them paranoid and nervous and stuff, but get them to the point where they're kind of freaking out a little bit and thinking, man, Trump's definitely going to get to the bottom of this at some point. He is going to do something, and this is all going to be aired out, and all this is going to be exposed, and I'm probably going to be in a lot of trouble. At which point, a lot of those people might start thinking, you know what, I'm probably going to get in a lot of trouble. It's not my fault. I didn't make all this stuff happen. I was just doing my job, and someone told me to do this, and I did this, and probably we shouldn't have done that, or I know this happened and it shouldn't have happened, and I don't want to be asked in front of a grand jury if I observed some illegal activity or unethical activity and I cooperated or I didn't say anything. I just don't even want to get involved in any of that. I need to clear myself. I need to clear my conscience. I need to cover my butt. And so it may be a situation where Trump's trying to apply the pressure and let these people know that he is going to pursue them, to make them very, very nervous, to make them paranoid, and to see if some of them get so freaked out and so paranoid and so nervous that they decide it's time to come forward and start volunteering some information, if for no other reason than to cover their own butts. So it could be a little bit of this going on. There's definitely something going on, because Trump doesn't just, a lot of times he says things and it sounds like, oh, this is just stuff he's just coming out of his head and he just says it. You don't think, he just talks without thinking. But the more and more I watch Trump, the more I realize that probably an awful lot of that kind of stuff that looks like it's just him doing like crazy talk is not. He's very calculated, he understands exactly what he's saying and what impact it's going to have. And it's not just crazy thoughts coming out of his head that he just talks without thinking. He actually has thought about it. He knows what he's doing, and there's a reason why he's doing what he's doing, saying the things he's saying. He's got a plan. He's got some reason for what he's doing. And that's what's becoming more and more apparent to me. And I think in this case, it could be, again, two things. The reason he said those things to Judge Jeanine, to make people really paranoid, nervous, or whatever, or he's thinking that this may force some people into getting so concerned and so tormented that they just finally want to get it off their chest and they come forward and become a whistleblower, or they at least go give some information to clear their conscience and cover their butt at the same time. And maybe this forces some people to come out. So who knows what's going on in Trump's mind and why he said the things he said to Judge Jeanine, but he certainly woke a lot of people up with that, I am sure. Had a lot of people paying attention to what he said. Fox News did an interview with Trump's former lawyer, the first lawyer he had, John Dowd, who also was on the, I believe, represented Pete Rose. And John Dowd told Fox News straight up, having been Trump's lawyer and working all this and looking at all the information that he had, he's concluded without a shadow of a doubt that it was a coup attempt, that it was legitimately a coup attempt against the President of the United States. And John Dowd's a pretty respected lawyer across the country. And he says, straight up, it was a coup attempt against Trump. Well, we have Laura Loomer and a bunch of illegal immigrants that she rounded up, jumped over the private security fence at Nancy Pelosi's home that surrounds her mansion, the fence, the wall that surrounds her mansion. They jumped over the wall and entered the property and would begin moving toward her home. Of course, she's not home. She's in Washington. But they were moving towards her home, and they were wanting to go on in the house there and make themselves a sandwich. And, of course, the cops were called, and eventually I guess they were forced to leave the property. But it's just, it's really funny, and I think it's a good thing to do, and I would like to see this happen more to a lot of the Hollywood leftist, elitist, political elitists, and people like that. Yeah, start bringing 50, 100 of those illegal immigrants onto their property through their private security fences and over their walls, and let's see how many of these liberal politicians and liberal Hollywood elites invite these illegals into their homes for a sandwich. Well done, Laura Loomer. She's got a good sense of humor. Well, we got a number today that suggests that if the shutdown lasts more than 2 more weeks, it will have cost more than the border wall money that Trump is asking for. Apparently, this government shutdown is costing about $1.3, about $500 million a day on average. So that's how much money the economy is losing over the shutdown. So in about a week and a half, almost a little less than 2 weeks, the shutdown would have cost more than the $5.7 billion that Trump is looking for the border wall. Huh. And Democrats are caving. Every day, more and more Democrats are caving. Pretty soon, Nancy and Chuck will be out there all by themselves. Out there on an island, looking like fools. Which isn't hard for them to do, of course. Well, the Supreme Court has refused to hear the challenge to the appointment of Acting Attorney General Whitaker. Yeah, I mean, he's only going to be around for a little while longer, and William Barr will be in there. But yeah, the Supreme Court is not going to hear the case to challenge Whitaker. The AG legal people have already put out two actual memos on this now, stating it's perfectly legal. Whitaker can be the acting AG, no problem with it at all. It's not a problem, and the Supreme Court's not going to waste their time on that. And of course, tomorrow is the beginning of the hearings. Supposedly, the hearings for William Barr. Supposedly going to be 2 days. Tomorrow and Wednesday, but I think they'll probably end up adding more days to that. So, what can we expect from the confirmation hearings of William Barr? Well, it's like I said about a week ago. I think you can expect the Democrats to, right on down the line, every single one of them, ask him questions to try to pigeonhole him and force him into saying he is not going to interfere with the Mueller probe. Now, he's already written his opening statement, and we already know what a lot of what's in his opening statement. And one of the things that's in his opening statement is he is going to say that it's vitally important that Mueller complete the Russia probe. That's what he's going to say to try to head him off at the pass. But he's still going to be asked a million different ways on that question. Are you going to mess with Mueller? Are you going to try to shut down Mueller? Are you going to try to restrict Mueller? Are you going to try to stop Mueller? Are you going to try to end Mueller? Are you going to, not release his report or whatever? He's going to be asked all these questions to pigeonhole him and try to force him into saying he's not going to do anything to affect the Mueller probe. And it appears he's going to comply with that. But he's also probably going to be asked if he has any intentions on reopening the Clinton email investigation, if he has any intentions on investigating the DOJ, the FBI, the intelligence community for Spygate and other related things. They want to press him on that. They want to make absolutely sure that they're probably not going to vote for him. The Democrats I'm talking about, no matter what answer he gives them, they're probably not going to vote for him just because he's Trump's pick. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of Democrats vote against Barr, if not all of them. But regardless of that, they're going to go ahead and ask these questions anyway because they want a way to pigeonhole him, to make him say in the hearings that he's going to let Mueller's witch hunt go on as long as Mueller wants. He's not going to provide any oversight whatsoever. He's just going to let Mueller run wild, as he has been for the past year and a half or so. They also want him to say that he's not going to dig back into the Right Reverend Clinton email issues, the Clinton Foundation, or anything like that. They're going to pigeonhole him on that and get him to say he's not going to do any of that. They're also going to want him to confirm that he's not going to investigate the corruption that was going on at the FBI, the DOJ, and the intelligence community. Probably still going on, but certainly that was going on during 2016. In other words, the Spygate. They're going to make sure that he tells them that he's not going to be looking into any of that. And if Trump says, yeah, I want you to appoint a special counsel to look into what happened with the Spygate thing, they want to make sure that he tells them that he will not follow that order. He'll resign or whatever. He's not going to investigate any of that kind of stuff. He's just going to go in and pretty much carry the torch. The torch that was passed from the previous Attorney General to him, and it'll just keep being passed on and on and on, with there never really ever being any accountability of the criminal activity that occurs at the DOJ, the FBI, the intelligence community. Been going on for a very, very, very long time. Very long time. In fact, since basically both those organizations were created, they've been corrupt. So that's what the hearing is going to be about. Now, I don't know what the Republicans are going to do, what they're going to ask him about. But I don't think that they're going to try to pigeonhole him or anything like that. I think that they're going to throw him some softballs because he's going to be getting harassed by Democrats all day. So I think that they'll probably throw him a few softballs. But I wouldn't be surprised if they have a couple honest members on the Judiciary Committee that ask him that, based on some statements he's made, they might say, hey, you pointed out yourself in a couple things that you've said that there was some serious issues going on with the FBI and the DOJ or the Clinton email investigation, the way that was handled. Do you plan on, looking at that, or are you just going to let all that slide? And what's the implications for that moving forward with the American people if so many Americans, millions and millions of Americans, don't trust the FBI, the DOJ? They've lost their credibility, and maybe some Republican will suggest that unless that situation is cleaned up and aired out and the people who committed crimes exposed and that type of thing, that he could be doing a great injustice to our system by allowing those crimes to go unpunished. And so based on that, whether or not he will be investigating any of that. So I expect that you might see some Republicans put a different spin on it and hit Barr from that angle on the exact same point. I just don't expect that he's going to say very much. I mean, he's a pretty skilled, pretty gifted lawyer. I imagine he'll spin as much as he can. But my own personal gut feeling is that Barr isn't going to do anything. And the only way that Barr would do anything is if Trump actually called him in the office and said, yeah, I want you to appoint a special counsel, look into the dossier, the FISA warrants, the Spygate, the whole 9 yards. I want you to do that. That's an order. So, but I think unless Trump gives a direct order, Barr isn't going to initiate on his own any of this stuff. That's just my guess. I could be wrong. I don't think that the truth is going to be unveiled because of any DOJ insider or FBI insider official who's going to suddenly turn and decide that they're going to expose the crimes. I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. I think it's only going to come from public pressure and from personal pressure applied by Trump. Something that he is doing or is planning on doing. That is the only way I see it coming about. Just my opinion. The Democrats want to subpoena Trump's interpreters who were there with him when he was meeting with Putin. Very funny. Okay, good luck on that. The interpreters are they are, I don't know if they're swear on a Bible, but I mean they're not allowed to talk about. They are sworn to secrecy. They are not allowed to disclose the conversations that they interpret between two presidents or two world leaders or whatever. Here in the U.S., I imagine that you would be criminally charged if you did that, and in the Russia, you would probably just be shot or killed or poisoned or thrown in the back of a van and tossed in a river or something. You wouldn't live to tell about it. Let's put it that way. In Russia, but here in the States, I imagine you could be prosecuted for that because these interpreters are, I don't know if they swear an oath or on a Bible or something, but they are told that what they're doing, interpreting between two world leaders, they're not allowed to talk about any of that to anybody, including the Congress, and the Congress knows that. This is just more for the circus, for the theater. Well, we have the chair of the Demo-Commie Coalition, which I've never even heard of, the Democratic Coalition before, but the chair of the Demo-Commie Coalition says that Trump and Putin are blackmailing Lindsey Graham over something related to Graham's sexual orientation. Well, a lot of people have suggested that Lindsey Graham is homosexual. I mean, he certainly looks a little sweet. He acts a little sweet. He has certain mannerisms that suggest he might be gay. He's apparently never been married. We don't know about him having any significant other female female person in his life. So there's been rumors about Lindsey Graham being gay for a very long time. I really don't care myself. But it's just funny. This is coming from the chair of the Democratic Coalition saying that Trump and Putin are blackmailing. Trump and Putin are blackmailing Lindsey Graham. Like Trump and Putin have nothing better to do all day than work up a scam to blackmail Lindsey Graham over his sexual orientation. And what would they be trying to get out of Lindsey Graham? What, to get him to support Trump? He doesn't always support Trump. Sometimes he's opposed to Trump. He's certainly opposed to him on Syria. He's certainly opposed to him on withdrawing from Syria and Afghanistan. And if he tried to withdraw from Iraq, he would be against that too. He's had differences with Trump. He's not like walking in lockstep with Trump. He's just in lockstep with Trump on the wall and on the Supreme Court justice and on Barr. So on some things he's with Trump, some things he's not. But it's just funny that some Democrat leader in a leadership position would seriously put out across the airwaves that that Trump and Putin are somehow working together to blackmail Lindsey Graham. I mean, this is crazy stuff, man. This is just insanity. It's absolute insanity. But we had ABC's Jonathan Karl, who was on a segment on ABC, and he had about 3 or 4 liberals sitting around dying for him to tell them, because he's the guy that I guess is on the Mueller investigation. He covers the Mueller investigation. And they were dying for him to say, yeah, Mueller has got something and he's going to drop pretty soon and it's going to be big trouble for Trump and this type of thing. But instead, he said just the opposite. And you should have seen the look of the faces on these MSE guests, ABC guests. Their faces, like George Stephanopoulos. I mean, he just wanted to total he couldn't believe it. Because Jonathan Karl said, there's absolutely zero evidence that Trump or his campaign colluded with Russia. And I would say that you're not going to hear anything from Mueller having anything to do with Trump or his campaign colluding with Russia. And I mean, the faces on these people just went completely upside down. It was hilarious, But because remember, these people really believe this stuff. I mean, they really believe it. We have Theresa May saying that no Brexit is more likely to happen than a no deal situation. So it appears that they're manipulating things in the UK so that they actually try to get some sort of a vote, which will be like a no Brexit vote, literally to have a vote within, I guess, not the people, but within the parliament somehow, to overturn the Brexit thing. They've tried everything else. Why not this? And she's saying that no Brexit, a vote on no Brexit is more likely than no deal, the no deal Brexit, which would be the hard Brexit. Knowing the games that they play, she may be right. But I got to tell you, I got to wonder how 53% of the people who voted for Brexit in the UK, how they're going to take that. I mean, are they going to take that laying down? I mean, if this whole thing ends up with the referendum being completely just, disposed of and ignored, and then they just basically say, okay, we're just going to have a vote in Parliament. And the Parliament votes and decides, there's not going to be a Brexit. I got to wonder how that's going to go over with those 53% who voted for Brexit. Are they just going to lay down and take it? Okay, well, I guess that's how it goes. I don't think so. We'll see. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't live in the UK. I don't have the pulse of things there. But, something tells me they're not going to take it that easy. They're not going to take it lying down completely. Doesn't mean it's not going to carry the day, and they won't ram it down the throats of those people anyway. But I'm just saying, I don't think if they do that, I'm saying it's not going to go, people are not going to swallow it down, and accept it that easily. They're probably going to make a fuss about it, I would think. I'm sure Mike G will fill us in on that, and other contributors here on this channel that are from the UK, who've been keeping us quite well informed, by the way. Thank you to all of you who do that, because there's a lot of us here on this channel that are watching the situation in Europe and specifically in the UK very carefully. Brett Barr asked a wonderful question to the Democrats and Pelosi, and it's a great question, and it's a question I wish Trump would tweet, and he probably will as soon as he learns about it, and it's a great question for any Republican member of Congress or anybody in the media to ask. And so Brett Barr, congratulations for coming up with a really good question to ask, and it makes a lot of sense, and it exposes how silly this entire thing is over the debate over the wall. So Brett Barr asked the question. He says, if a wall, or if walls, are immoral, will Pelosi and the Democrats introduce a bill to tear down the existing walls? I mean, let's face it. If the Dems and Pelosi say that the wall is immoral, despite the fact that it was built with funds that many of them voted to appropriate to build those walls, will they now turn and say if the walls are immoral, then obviously we must tear down all the existing walls? Not just not build new ones, but we must tear down the existing walls. I mean, if they're immoral, isn't that what we should do? That's a very interesting and humorous question, and a very good question to start putting to Democrats. If the walls are immoral, will you now tear down all the walls? Very well done. Okay, so I want to spend the last 5 minutes going back again to this New York Times story that came out on Sunday, that again was the fourth attempt at rearranging the narrative to try to come up with some excuse for why they launched this investigation into Trump. Now keep in mind, this is the fourth time. First it was a dossier, then they went to Papadopoulos, then they went back to the dossier, then they went to firing Comey, and now they're trying to spin this again with the exact same story, that it's an obstruction charge. And so what the story in the New York Times, and keep in mind, this is definitely a leak by the deep state. This wasn't a friendly leak into the deep state. This was the same type of deep state, someone at the DOJ or Intel Community or FBI leaking to the New York Times, just like they did when they leaked the original story that they wrote about the dossier, then the Papadopoulos thing. Every one of these have been very selective type leaks at a particular time when they were desperately needing to change the narrative for the reason why they launched this investigation into Trump. So at the most convenient times, that's when they drop these garbage stories. And this story is a garbage story from paragraph 1. First of all, again, they're citing the date in here is Comey's firing. The date that Trump fired Comey being the reason, according to the New York Times story, that they launched this investigation. But we know overwhelmingly from tons and tons and tons of other facts and information that this investigation into Trump began at the very latest. At the very latest, this investigation began somewhere around the end of March or early April 2017 or 2016, when it became obvious that Trump was going to be the GOP nominee. When it became obvious that Trump was going to win the nomination, that is when everything started. You can look at my timeline and you will see that everything specifically targeting Trump and people around him on his team, but was all about targeting him. It all started right about the time that it became obvious that Trump was going to win the Republican nomination. There were things going on even before that, but they were going on with people like Papadopoulos and Carter Page and Paul Manafort, and people were on their tail over other things. Could have been something to do with Trump, I guess, but for the most part, we know that the Obama administration definitely wanted to go after Papadopoulos because of things that he was working on, things he was doing. Also the same with Michael Flynn and Carter Page. He just got caught up in it because he crossed paths with Stefan Halper, and I think that kind of opened up a can of worms for him. And then, of course, Manafort stuff goes all the way back to 2007 when Glenn Simpson and his wife Mary Jacoby were working for the Wall Street Journal, and they were writing stories about lobbyists, American lobbyists representing former Soviet KGB guys in Washington. So, you can kind of see in the background, where all this stuff started. But this story in the New York Times is trying again to come up with a new narrative to justify the investigation into Trump. And they're saying that it was because Trump fired Comey. Trump fired Comey. Yet we have tons of information proving that they were investigating Trump long before that. And even Lisa Page says in her testimony that there was investigation into Trump before and after the firing of Comey. But what's more extraordinary about this New York Times story is that the evidence that they cite, now you would think to investigate a president as being, because the story is literally about how the FBI was investigating Trump because they believe he was acting as a agent for the Russians. He was working with Putin. He was literally working, as a Russian agent. This is what, and we're supposed to believe that the FBI is seriously sitting around talking about the fact that they think Trump is working as a Russian agent for Putin and Russia. I mean, this is insanity. No reasonable person could conclude that. There's no evidence of that whatsoever. And so you think, okay, well, what is the evidence? And did they have some secret documents? They have some secret meetings? Did they pick up some secret conversations? Is there something we don't know? And as it turns out, there is none. There is none. And even the New York Times admits that. The reasons that they literally give for believing that Trump was working for Putin and the Russians as a Russian agent, the reasons are because a couple of things. Number one, because Trump said that we should have better relations with the Russians. He was out there campaigning and saying, hey, we need to have a good relationship with the Russians. It's better to have a good relationship than a bad relationship. That is one of the things that they believed made them believe Trump was a Russian agent. Next, because Trump suggested in a joking manner that if Russia knew where Hillary's deleted emails were, that we would all love to see them. He was joking. Everyone was trying to figure out where the Reverend Clinton's deleted emails were. It was a joke. He was making a joke. But based on that, the FBI took it seriously and decided he was working for Putin and the Russians. Then they also say that Trump was also saying nice things about Putin, and he never said anything bad about Russia. These are the reasons, according to the New York Times, that the FBI investigated Trump for being a Russian spy or Russian agent or whatever. Unbelievable. If that is what they've got, if that is what they're going to stick to, if that is what they're trying to sell with this very well calculated and very well timed leak to the New York Times, they have got a lot of trouble coming their way. a lot of trouble coming their way. You cannot open up a massive, 3, 4, 5 operations, intelligence investigations and things and such on a president or on a president-elect or even on a presidential candidate based on some crazy stuff like this. That's just insanity. It's not even logical. It's a problem. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. You guys have a good night. See you. Bye.